So let's start. Hello everybody, welcome to this afternoon session. My name is Jorge. I'm work from the JavaScript framework team, and today I'm going to talk about all. And this is a talk that is going to be a very basic talk for the people that don't know all at all. If you already know all, maybe it's going to be a little boring for you, but maybe you're going to learn something new. You should know a little bit of JavaScript. So we have a QR code that you can scan now, or you can scan afterwards if you want. You can put, it's a pad, and you can ask all the questions that you want in that QR code. So we're going to start off what is all. All is a UI library created internally in Odoo. Is a declarative, class-based, event handling, and XML template. If you know a little bit of React or Vue, we are talking about the same kind of level of abstraction. All is for creating the basics components of Odoo. A difference of Vue or React, we don't use. We are not function-based, we are more class-based, and our templates are XML-based. So here you can have a small example. I don't know if the pointer is, yeah, the pointer works, nice. Like I say, it's a class. It's a class, component class, and it's based off XML states. All is fully integrated in Odoo. You maybe heard the developers talk about the JavaScript framework. When we talk about the JavaScript framework, we don't talk about just all. We talk about all, which is the component system, but we also talk about the Odoo JS framework, that all the generic components that we create, the function, the views, the utilities. And on top of that, we also have all the web clients, the navbar, the user menu, the actions, and all the services. So today we're just going to talk about all. If you want to know more about the Odoo JavaScript framework, Jerry tomorrow is going to give another talk about the second phase, the Odoo JavaScript framework. Oh, wrong. So to this talk, to understand this talk, we are going to use a use case that I suppose everybody already knows, a to-do list. So, like I explained before, all is component-based. It's a class that you have. Here we have a class with an XML template. As you see, the results is going to be on the left. You only have, in this case, just a text, and the text is mount. You need to mount your class to a document body, and it's going to be shown in your HTML document. As I told you before, all is based off templates, XML templates, so we use the QWeb templated system. You already know the QWeb templated system because it's also used for the views. All use a small, bigger, extended QWeb template systems. Like that, we can have the output values, like you can check in a Q8 classic Q8. You have the conditional rendering, loops. We also have dynamic attributes. That's different from the classic Q-Web, and also event handlings. So we can handle any event with a T-on. We could use T-on on click, and we can have handle the event. We also have other directives, but like a small talk of 20 minutes, I cannot talk about all the directives. So if we create a to-do list, just the XML part, I create, for this example, 2 to-do lists hard-coded, and we have the XML part. You can check that I use a conditional rendering to show a list, or if the list is empty. We have the loops, with a T for each a loop. We have the dynamic attribute. If we want to check if a task is already completed, we can add a class in a dynamic way with a dynamic attribute. We have the output value, like that the description is going to be shown in the HTML. We also have access from the XML, from the templated, to the JavaScript part. So we have a rendering context, so the XML part can have access to the values from the instance. Here you use to-dos directly, and you can check to-dos is the list that I created in the JavaScript part. To be complete, we need to react to events that happened. We need to react to refresh. All have a reactivity system. You don't need to render each time your UI is going to be rendered automatically. To do this, with the same example, I just add a new input with a tion key up. As I told you before, tion is for catch the events. So I can catch the key up event and use the to-do function. But I use the use state. The use state is a way to say to the component, you are going to re-render yourself with this value is going to change. So when somebody writes something here and press enter, we are going to push the new information in the list, and the component is going to re-render itself. Until now, we work with just one component, the to-do class. But in complex systems, Odoo or another, you need to work with a component-oriented UI library. So we need to interact with multiple components. Each component, father component, can communicate with his son component through props. If you already know a little bit of React, they use also props. Props are values that you give to your son. And in the other way, from the child component to the father component, we use callback props. Callback props are functions that the parent component gives to the child component, like that the child component can communicate with the parent component. So in this case, we can create subcomponents. We can create one component item. This item is going to be called for each line of the to-do list. So we create a simple item component. It receives in props the to-do. In the to-do is an object. We are going to know if it's complete under the description, so we can create the description, and is complete is to be black removed from the list. And in the parent component, you just need to use item in the XML like it was a tag it item. It starts always with uppercase. And in the JavaScript part, you need to add the components that are used in the template of the parent component in the static components elements. Like that, all know which component need to be rendered. And in that case, we can see that we give the props to do, the list, the item to do, the object to do, to the item component as an attribute in the XML. For the callback props, it's more or less the same. In this case, we're going to imagine that we add in the item a role button to remove. But the information of the list of the to-do list is in the parent. So the child component needs to say to the parent, hey, somebody click in the delete button, please remove this from your list. So the parent create a function to remove the to-do, is going to give this function to the child, and the child can call this function directly. So in JavaScript, function and classes are objects. If you give somebody, in this case the parent give a function to the child, when the child is going to execute that function, is going to be executed with the context of the child. but we don't want to execute the function with the context of the child, because the function is going to search for the to-dos to remove the to-dos, and this is not in the child. We want that this function, we need that this function is executed with the context of the parent, and for that case we add a dot bind. Dot bind is a way for the parent to tell to the child, hey, I bind this to the parent, so when it's going to be executed, is the parent know is with the context of the parent. All also provides different functions to interact with your components in all the component lifecycle, from the creation to the destruction of the component. So each time that you want to interact, each time that the component do something, if setup is the first thing, will start with is mounted when the props are updated, where it's going to patch into the DOM, where it's already patched, or it's going to be destroyed. You can interact with that component. In our case, for instance, we would like to focus on the input once the component is mounted. So we call, we add a reference to the input. We call the unmounted function give by all, and you can't just do a dot focus, and it's going to focus that item. You can check that something that also is give by all is the use reference function. This function is used to be able to check the element that is created in the DOM. So in this case, we have the reference, the element of the reference, really the element of the DOM in the reference, and we can focus at that element. So all is a lot more than just which I show you here, but we have a less than 20-minute talk, so it's just this scratching the surfaces. We have slots. That means that slots a special component, special props that you can give to the parent component, to the child component, sorry, a complete template, and it's going to render. We also manage translation. We also have communication event bus, so we can communicate between different components in the life cycles. We manage error management. I already told you a little bit of the reactivity, but in reality it's a fine reactivity. So only the components, the needed components, the components that are changed are re-render. And we also have hooks. Hooks, I already show you one hook here. Hooks are the special function that all give. We have this one, we have the use state to make the component render itself each time an object is modified, and we have much more. So all in the repository, in GitHub repository of all, you can have all the documentation are also tutorials. The tutorials go from basic to a little more advanced, and also you can check in the Odoo documentation. You can have also an old tutorial, and the old tutorial you also have JavaScript tutorial, and you can go a little further until really mastering all the JavaScript and the web client JavaScript part. So I was a little fast. So if you have some question, you can scan the code base, the QR code. I think I use the microphone also, or no? I don't know if they can use the microphone to ask the questions or not. Sorry? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to just read the question. So if you have the interview didn't show up, if you have some question, please scan the QR code, type your question. I'm going to read the question, and I'm going to ask the question as much as I can. Sorry? Yeah. Okay. The first question is, I suppose, when. Okay, I'm going to read the question. Okay.
Is OWL like Node.js or more like Next.js?
Sorry?
So the first question is OWL like Node.js
I don't have.
or more like Next.js?
Why I can check the questions? Which URL you have?
This one.
Not the URL. Fuck, I put the wrong URL, I think.
Yeah. Or you can just read them from the screen.
Can check the questions. Sorry, I think I missed. J'ai mélangé mes URL, je pense. Expedit. Ah fuck, oui, j'ai mélangé mes URL. Sorry.
You can just leave on your screen.
Non. Pourquoi j'ai pas accès? Ah, perfect. Okay, I can read the questions, don't worry. Yeah. The first question, always like Node.js or more like Exter.js? Sorry, I don't really know XJS. We are more like React. We create all internally because the modularity of Odoo made it impossible to use another framework, JS framework. We have last year Sam do a talk about the difference between all and the other mainstream framework JS. So you can also have access in YouTube if you want to see. And in the whole page, you can check. In the whole page, you also have an explanation why we create all and we don't use an existing JavaScript framework like React. Can I use all in the front-end website? Not completely, not for the moment. It's a project to rewrite website to use all. For the moment, they don't use all the basics of all, but you can use an all component in the portal part. I don't remember the. You can use all component in the portal, in the views of the portal, and you can give them the props needed to that all component. That part is already done, but in the website itself, no, not for the moment. Tailwind CSS. Out for the instance, for the moment we are using SCSS. We are used to use Bootstrap classes. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Tailwind CSS. I can explain use effect. So another thing that we have, another hook that all provides, a magical function, if you want, is use effect. Use effect is going to be called each time the component is going to be patched to the DOM. So it's going to be called in the beginning, before mounted, and if the props are modified, it's going also to be called before the patch. Can we use all in templates header? I didn't understand this question. Yeah, we are going to work in the documentation. We already do it for the old part. In the old part, the documentation is correct. It's very good. The JavaScript part exactly needs a real refinement of the documentation, so we're going to start working on that part. Any technical? As I told you, there is for the old part, you have the documentation directly in the GitHub. You can find all the documentation directly in the GitHub of all project. For the JavaScript part, the documentation is in the documentation of Odoo, but it needs to be reworked. Similar to the slide deck presentation be uploaded. Yeah, you can upload the presentation if you want. Documentation of tutorial. You also have, if you want, you even have a playground in all with the components and tutorials that you can use to check what all is capable to do. You can even run. So you have all the documentation here, the examples. You have tutorials with the small things, and you can perform it in the old playground. Migration question: will jump from all 1 to all 2 be as big from all 3, or is all mature? All is more or less mature. We not have for the moment. We didn't plan to create a all 3 for the moment, so we are not going to create a new all for the moment. We are maturing the JavaScript part of Odoo, so normally you don't need to modify it directly. Can I use all in PDF reports? I'm not sure. That part I'm really not sure. You can ask that to another member of the JavaScript team. I can tell you, I don't know who asked this question, but you can talk me after the talk, and I can tell you which people you need to ask this question. I'm sorry, I don't know. Reference has the reference has to be unique in the component that you are creating. It's not needed to be unique in the whole DOM, because we know in which component we are working, so it's going to give you the reference of that component. So it's indeed it needs to be unique, but in the component. If you are used to work with React, the difference with all is not going to be a big one. The big difference is that React work more in a function-based. We work more in a class-based. The use state in React give you 2 functions, one for set and one for get. We don't use that kind of function. We use directly the constant, the variable of JavaScript. So it's a little easier in that thing, because you don't have two functions to work, and you can directly use the variable. The bigger part, the big difference is going to be the class point of view to the function point of view. Already, can I change overwrite overload all components from other modules? Sorry, yes, it's doable. Okay. The person that write this question we can discuss after, like that he can show me the bug. We can discuss if there's correct way to do it. Yeah,tout is the best way to render because trow is deprecated. Tout in the JavaScript part, you need to mark up the element that you are going to show like saved. Like that, we don't have security issues. And GSX. All is developed in TypeScript.